Hey there, and welcome to Into the Grid. Today we're going to be looking at the demo. The game itself is slated for release in the fourth quarter of this year. I've already wishlisted this because after a few hours of playing the demo, I simply know that this is a must-buy for me. It's kind of ironic because it's kind of a deck builder game and I absolutely hate card games and deck builder games like that, but I will gladly make an exception for this one. Alright, let's get started. We're going to do the tutorial run right now. Alright, welcome to the Grid. The Grid is a digital infrastructure runner's hack. Grids are comprised of clusters, virtual rooms that hold nodes. So these are the nodes. Nodes are the smallest functioning elements of the grid. It's kind of like the Matrix, it's kind of all like hacker terminology and things like that. You can move the camera using the keys, blah blah blah, self-explanatory. Your objective in every run is to find the grid's core node and breach its mainframe. That's basically the final boss. Click on that library node. Nodes have different ways of being used. Try extracting this one. So it gives us 40 shards. Extracting nodes will always provide shards. Shards are remnants of code that can be used as currency to buy things inside the grid. To move between clusters, you will need to pass through gates. Check out that gate. Most gates have specific conditions that need to be met to unlock them. This activity gate will be unlocked if all the nodes in the cluster are exhausted. Alright, so we have to extract this one, I guess. That will unlock that gate, so we can open the gate. And we end up at another cluster. Click on the library node to see another way you can interact with the node. While navigating the grid, some actions you take will increase your trace. That's right here. Trace measures how aware of your presence the grid is. For every 10 points of trace gained, the grid will increase its alarm level, making the run more difficult and the enemies more dangerous. Try exploiting this one, so when we exploit we get 10% more shards when extracting future nodes, I guess. Different nodes can be exploited for different effects. Check how to advance further by inspecting that gate. This is a combat gate, so you must defeat all Sentinel eyes in this cluster to unlock it. Sentinels are the grid's defenders, placed there to fight any intruder and kick them out of the grid. Pinpoint their live location to the authorities or worse. Click on the node protected by the Sentinel eyes to start the combat. That's this one. Start combat. Everything you see is created by a console to provide you with information during combat, so it's kind of like a graphical user interface for the coding that you're doing, I think. This is your console's integrity, a representation of how much damage it can take before it breaks. If it reaches 0, it's game over. The objective of every combat is to get the eye's integrity to 0 before it does the same to you. Alrighty. The console will show the eye's intent here, so this is what it's going to do this turn. And its inherent passive abilities here. At the end of its turn, this ice gains 10 barrier. It's kind of like a shield. So it will do these actions in a turn, or at least try to, and then will generate a shield for itself. Play cards cost clock. The card's clock cost is shown on the left next to its name. Okay, so 1, 0, 1, 1, 1. Now try attacking the ice by dragging a code slash and targeting the Sentinel. Okay. Playing cards fills this yellow bar here. That is virtual memory. Many cards are generated and it's used to activate your commands and trigger some cards' conditional effects. So depending on how much Vim you have, virtual memory, you can use these abilities here. Right now we don't have enough. Confirm. You can check how much Vim a card generates by counting the yellow symbols beneath its clock. You see 1, 1, 2 here, 1 there. Commands are powerful skills that can swing a battle in the blink of an eye. Normally any given command can only be used once per turn, so keep that in mind. Let's finish this turn. He's going to do 35 damage, so let's protect ourselves with a little bit of a barrier here. We have 20 barrier that shows up on the bottom. Some cards generated and it blocks incoming damage. Barrier expires at the start of your following turn. Let's do this one. This one doesn't cost anything, so it's free. It generates 1 Vim. We went from 4 to 5. We don't have any clock left, so we end the turn here. While fighting in the grid, you may apply or receive buffs or debuffs. The statuses you are affected by are shown above your integrity, and the ones affecting the enemy are next to theirs. So we're both exposed, which means that we take more damage. let's see. He is only going to gain barrier, so he's not going to do any damage, so we don't have to protect ourselves just yet. We'll just put some damage on. Remember, you can visualize all the cards you can still draw in your repo. This is pretty handy, so you can see the future cards. This is not in sequence, by the way. It will randomly take from this, so the next card is not going to necessarily be this one or that one. It might be that one. It's random, but these five are going to be the 5 next cards that I draw in one way or the other. He's going to do quite a bit of damage. Well, it's just a tutorial, so let's just put some damage down as well. Alright. So he ran out of integrity and is basically destroyed. So we get a reward, we get a shard, 120 of them, and we get one of those hash keys. You got a hash key. Hash keys are a resource used to rehash nodes and unlock some gates. They are mainly obtained by defeating sentinels. Now that this node does not have a sentinel on it anymore, you can interact with it. Great. So we can actually exploit this and choose a card. So you can expand your deck. I'll just take this one. It provides some damage and a little bit of barrier. Open that gate and move forward. The gate. This cluster is controlled by an extraction watcher. You can check its description by clicking on it. Every time you extract a node in this cluster, it's +1 to trace. It can add up. Most clusters will have a watcher monitoring them. I believe all clusters actually, but placed there to penalize your actions. There are also 2 gates. Inspect each one. Okay, so this needs a hash key. You can see the symbol here. And this one needs to you need to get rid of, you have to use all the nodes in the cluster to open that one up. So we have 3 nodes that we would have to use. Exploit that library. So if we extract, we would normally get +1 for just 44 shards. It's not really a good trade-off, to be honest. But this is always +1 either way, so we might as well do this, so we don't take an actual penalized loss on the trace here. Exploit that source node. With these ones, with the big $sign, you can actually go to the surface. It's kind of like a market. You can buy cards and things like that. Shop where you can exchange shards and other resources for cards, tools and more. Feel free to browse and buy. Leave when you're ready, and remember you won't be able to come back until you find another source node. Okay. So we only have 200, so you can see that a lot of stuff is not available for us. Let's buy the fun guys. They don't cost anything, so you can just use this card. It doesn't cost you any clock. And you will draw a card because of it, but you also generate 3 temporary Vim. Can be quite handy. And let's do this one. Blue are defensive cards, reds are offensive, and yellow are generator cards. They usually generate either cards or Vim or something like that. Alright, we exit. We got +1 trace because going to the shop costs 1 trace. Eliminate that sentinel. Okay. He's going to do 45 damage. We can actually use this one. And these 2. It's not about, well, let me put as much damage down and I will take some damage as we go. It's not really a smart strategy. We'll see that later. So see, these don't cost anything, but they generate some Vim for us. And this will actually give us an extra card. Some cards heal temporary virtual memory. Temp Vim for short. Temp Vim can be used to use commands, but cannot trigger cards' conditional effects. So the Temp Vim will work up, so we can use these commands. But for example, this one here, if you have at least 10 Vim, then you would actually do 40 damage to all targets. But the temporary Vim does not add up towards that 10. So we would have to have 10 pure Vim in order to use that ability or get that bonus effect. 30 damage. We'll just use this one. He's doing quite a bit of damage though. All right, so we're gonna rip in. So now that we'll have access to this node, now you can rehash that random node. So you can extract, exploit, and rehash, which will give us an icebreaker. Icebreakers are tools that can disable any ice instantly, whether sentinel or watcher. So we can disable this one, but we also would have been able to disable the sentinel that was protecting this node here. Explore the cluster behind that gate. Let's open this up. So I'll keep following the tutorial. Incredible useful nodes. However, it's also protected by an activity watcher, so using any of them in any way would greatly increase your trace. These are really a pain in the butt. So we're going to use that tool, I'm pretty sure. Use the icebreaker on the activity watcher. Click here, you select him and confirm. So you don't get extra penalized here. This is really a cool one. The arrows up means that you can actually upgrade a card here of your deck. In some cases, depending on how much you're willing to spend, you can obtain a card and upgrade a card. So let's, it wants us to exploit here, so I cannot do this, but let's upgrade the card. So this is our deck, and then you can actually see if you hover over them what the effect is going to be. So this is originally 30 barrier on one card and 1 yellow Vim dot. It would actually upgrade that to 2 Vim dots and 45 barrier right off the bat. Usually I do this one if I have him, because the hoplite will do damage and barrier, and it increases both those values and gives me an extra dot. So yeah, I don't care much about 5 temporary Vim versus 3. It's not worth the upgrade to me. Yeah, I'll just do this one. Alright. Then we want to exploit this one. This gives us a free card, well, for 1 trace level. This is, the way it works is that this is really like an epic card. Protocol cards will change the rules of combat once played and get decompiled afterwards. Add that one to your deck. It wants us to take that one. I would normally take this one, but I will explain that in a future video where I actually do a run. Okay, let's confirm this one. So now at the start of a turn, we will generate 3 Vim automatically each time. That is really, really very nice, but I still would have picked the other one because it was a defensive card with grit. I'm not sure if that is explained in the tutorial, I don't remember. Exploit this one, obtain a driver. Okay, drivers are segments of source code you can pick up and will grant different bonuses for the run. So we have 3 options. At the start of each combat, generate 3 Vim. So that is the start of the combat, not turn. So you get basically 3 Vim once, and then for the rest of the combat this doesn't do anything anymore. Every time you play 4 attack cards in a single turn, draw 1 card. I don't never pick this one. Code slash cards deal 20% more damage. We have several code slash cards right now, but I actually, ironically enough, I usually remove them from my deck at some point, or try to. I'm gonna take this one then. Let's just get 3 Vim, I guess. Now we actually reached trace level 10 out of 10, and that means that the alarm level is going to go up. Raising the alarm level costs that gate to close, but sometimes can spawn new sentinels as well. So the moment you go up in an alarm level, which takes 10 trace levels to get to the next level, which is not a good thing, by the way, then some gates will close, some sentinels will spawn, and yeah, it's kind of difficult then. The gate can be opened, but I will now raise your trace. Yep, so now we can open it, but now it costs me 1 trace. That's annoying. Now let's open that hash key gate. So we pay with that hash key that we have. Finally, you have found the core node. Confirm. Core nodes always have an exceptionally powerful sentinel on them, known as a core keeper. Before the final battle, remember you can customize your commands for combat here. You can do so at any point during a run. So we've seen these, where for 5 Vim you can get draw a card, 10 Vim you can draw 3 cards and then choose 1 to discard. But you can select all these options here. So usually in the beginning I would leave it like this to get acquainted with it, but the moment you get better at the game and you actually follow a specific strategy, it can actually be really worthwhile to change it to this, for example, to gain 2 grit or 2 feral. Grit, like it says, each point increases barrier gained by 5%. So it's a defensive stat in a way, even though you can, at some point you can do damage with the amount of grit that you have, which is pretty awesome. Feral is an offensive stat, so each point increases outgoing damage by 5% and decays 1 point each turn. So if we have 2 Feral now and we end our turn, we'll have 1 next turn, unless we generate more Feral. Right, let's leave it that the way it is. You're now ready to breach the mainframe and face the core keeper of this grid. Okay, that wants us to battle that one. Of course, this tutorial, so it should be easy. This is normally not the way the final boss looks, by the way. In combat, you can check your active drivers and their effects here. So keep in mind, the driver is basically a passive ability that is with us all the time, every time we fight. But the problem is we only have this rooster driver, as it's called. It will give us 3 Vim, and it already did here. You see the 3 Vim. At the start of the combat, for the rest of this fight combat, this thing is pretty much useless. Some sentinels have companion devices or independent parts of themselves called peripherals to aid them in combat. Disabling them is not mandatory to win the combat. So it shows that, or you actually will say that, peripherals have their own separate integrity and subroutines and must be targeted separately by single target attacks. So I would drag the card over the peripheral to do damage, for example, to the peripheral and not to the boss. Disabling a peripheral will set off its death trigger, which you can check here. Little skull. The moment this one dies, it will actually stun the eyes. So no matter what he's planning to do, he will be stunned for 1 turn. Alright, he's going to do 20 damage. We need 60 to stun him, we only have 40 available. So I'll put up 1 barrier. Let's actually do this. Let's focus on the peripheral. It's not necessary, it's not needed. Some peripherals you actually don't want to touch. Some of these little mini bosses have peripherals that are very, very annoying. And I can actually do damage to you if you touch them. He's going to do 40 damage total. We have this guy here. And I know I'm going to stun him, so I have 2 clock left and 2 cards left, so I can actually do this and this. He had a barrier, so we don't do direct damage to him because he had a barrier. There's not much we can do about it. Right. Let's use this card. So that is going to stay here because that is going to be a buff. So we generate 3 Vim each turn now. He's going to do 20 damage, but we have that hoplite. So that is pretty good. So we have 30 barrier right now because of that hoplite. This is always free, just drag it in there. He's going to do 35 damage, but because we have 10 Vim, we actually have max Vim. This card will give us 40 barrier and it will immediately decompile, so it's not going to come back this combat. Next boss it would be available again. Right, we can do a little bit of damage, not much. I can draw 1 card with this, but I don't have the clock left, so let's move. But yeah, we're getting 3 Vims, so I can actually use this. Let's do this. Gotta showcase this. So I selected 3 cards, and now I have to select one that I'm gonna get rid of. Let's do this one, this card. I still have my 3 turns. Let's use these guys first. He's gonna do 20 damage. I'm gonna use this one. It has 30 barrier. It gives me a card. I don't have enough clock for this, but at least we can get some damage in. I can use these abilities as well. Let's do this. Draw 1 card and gain 2 clock. So that actually will give me 2 more turns to do stuff. And that can be very handy in this case, because we are protected. So we're not losing anything besides Vim. And depending on the strategy that you use, then you might want to do this and use these commands a lot, or you might actually avoid that at all costs, because you want to stay at max Vim. That can give you bonuses, depending on which cards you have and which drivers. But that is for a future run. Okay, let's see. He has 30 plus 20 barriers, 50. We should be okay then. This should do it. Test run completed. Now that you've learned the basics, you should be ready for your first run. Alright. That will actually take us to the beginner run. And I'm going to leave that for the next episode. I will very likely upload that episode on the same day or maybe the next day as I do this episode. So you guys can dive right in. I will put a link in the description for this. Like I said, this game is going to be released in the 4th quarter. So might be in a few weeks, might be in maybe 1 or 2 months. Either way, it's on my wish list. I really like this. The game itself is going to have more options available. There's going to be campaigns, different characters, different bosses. You've only seen one, by the way. When we do the beginner run, you will actually see a lot more bosses. Very well made, very interesting. So either way, thanks for watching, guys. Catch you guys in the beginning run in the next one. Bye-bye.